You guys may know me as a landscape photographer, but I actually started out doing weddings, and I think weddings really led to my passion in travel and landscape photography. I mean, a lot of people ask me about the gear I use for weddings, and those of you that follow me know that I'm a Nikon shooter, but haven't talked much before about the gear I use for weddings. So it is similar to my landscape gear, but there are some crucial differences and some lenses that I really love that I haven't talked about to do with my landscape. So let's get into it. So let's start off with the Sigma 35mm Art. Now this is an absolute beast of a lens. It's a prime lens, it's not that expensive, but the quality is outstanding. It's incredibly sharp, it's incredibly fast at f1.4, and I will have it on one of my cameras at a wedding throughout the whole day. So I will generally have one camera, two Nikon D850s, one of them over my shoulder on a shoulder strap. We'll have the Sigma 35mm on it all day, and then my other camera will have one of my zoom lenses. Now, that one's a particularly important lens for me, and I just want to talk a little bit about the Sigma now. While I'm talking, I'll show you some images that I've taken on that lens. Now, it's really important for me for portraits because the depth of field on it, the speed of it creates this incredible bokeh depth of field, and the way it deals with light makes it look almost like the light looks thick, like you can touch it. The way it flares, the way it deals with light is really nice. So I'll always have that out when I'm photographing portraits of the couples. I also find it really handy for reportage shots and sort of getting ready shots. It's a small, light, versatile lens. And because of its speed, it's also really good in things like the evening when you're taking photos of speeches or anything where it's a bit dark. You've got that extra speed, and the focus is really good on it too, I find. Now, the other lenses I use are the Holy Trinity. Now, obviously you've heard me talk about these before, and I talked about them in my landscape favorite lenses for landscapes video. So let me just talk through that Holy Trinity and what I like to use them for and why. And as I'm talking, I'll show you some photos I've taken with each of them so you can get an idea of what I use them for. But the most important one for me by far is the 24-70, which, as I said before in the landscape videos, is such a workhorse lens. It's got the perfect range from 24mm to 70, so you've got a wide angle to a telephoto. It's super sharp, it's super fast. It's just a great all-round lens. If I was to have one lens on me at a wedding, it would have to be this one just because of its versatility. Next up is the super wide angle, the 14 to 24mm. Now, I would say this is more important in landscape photography, but I do use it at weddings. It's a lens that doesn't go on my camera very much. I probably only take a handful of shots at a wedding, but those shots are quite vital. So the things that it's useful for are taking photos of the room or any kind of architecture inside where you need that wide angle to capture the space. But it's also really good for those kind of dramatic magic shots. So there's a bit of a blurred line for me between my landscape photography and my wedding photography, where I like to capture landscapes, especially when I'm doing weddings abroad, with the couple in the landscape. So we kind of create that big magical artistic kind of shot, but with the couple in it. Now, this is obviously very useful for that. It allows you to capture a big wide scene. It's also really good for night photography, as I've said before. So quite often in the evening we'll go out with a couple and photograph them under the stars out at night, and this one's a crucial one for that. So I don't use it very much. If there was one lens I would have to drop at a wedding, it would be this one. Finally, the 70 to 200. Now, this is another quite important one at weddings for me. It'll be on my camera quite a lot. It's really good for those kind of sniping, reportage, candid moments that you want to capture throughout the wedding, when you want to stand way back and be able to capture what's going on without being too intrusive or without affecting the scene at all. Obviously, when you're photographing, people are very aware of it sometimes, so with this one you can stand well out of the way and they can not be aware that you're photographing them, and it gives you a chance to catch those moments. It's also really good for things like ceremony and speeches where you want to stand far back and you don't want to get in people's way, but you can zoom in and get those shots. So between those lenses, they're all the ones I would use at weddings. There's a couple of others. I use a 50mm and another prime, but I really don't use them very much, and I don't want to talk about them because these are by far the most common lenses I use. I want to talk a little bit more through my gear because I feel like this is a really important part of weddings for me, and that is speedlight flashes. So I use the Nikon SB900s. There's so many good, much cheaper flashes by Godox and other brands now that you don't need to spend this much to use a Nikon flash, but I do think that off-camera flash, for me, is really important at weddings. It's a pain sometimes, it really is, because it takes a lot of setting up, but whereas a lot of photographers will just stick the flash on top of the camera, it's just not the same as using it off camera. So I'll use light stands, I'll set flashes up around the room, and it allows me to create the kind of light that I want to use in the scene to make stuff look, just look perfect and nice, make sure it's flattering light on people. But these are also really handy for the interesting couple shots. You can put them behind couples to create some dramatic effects, use smoke. Let me show you while I'm talking all the different kind of things I've done with this before to create some dramatic lighting. If you want to know a little bit more about my flash photography, there's a couple of other videos where I talk about it. I'll put a link up here to one I created recently talking about creating dramatic lighting with it. But if you want to hear more, please comment or send me a DM and ask, because I'd love to talk more about flashes if that's what interests you guys. But obviously this is predominantly more of a travel and landscape channel, so I don't want to bombard you with stuff that you're not interested in. So honestly, I'd really love to hear from you guys about what you'd like me to talk about. I hope you found this useful. Anyway, if you've got any questions, please feel free to put them below, and I'll do my best to get back to you. Thanks so much.